a quiet archive record. Tonight, we're stepping into a slow unfolding. Settle in, let the outside world dissolve, and gently descend into tonight's world. The word Illuminati has become a catch-all label for hidden control, secret plans, and unseen networks that shape public life. In this episode, we treat the topic as a historical question first, then a modern cultural one. We track where the real Bavarian Illuminati came from in the 1700s, what it actually tried to do, and why it was shut down. We then follow how the name survived, changed meaning, and got attached to later fears about elites, banks, revolutions, and modern entertainment. Finally, we assess claims that a single long-lived Illuminati still exists today by comparing what is asserted with what can be documented, what is plausible, and what would be required to keep such a group hidden for centuries. Tonight, we go through the Illuminati myth and assess how likely it is to be real. To start, we need to separate two things that often get blended together. First is a real historical organization that used the name Illuminati, founded in Bavaria in 1776. It existed for a short time, had a known founder, left a paper trail, and was targeted by the Bavarian state. Second is a modern idea of the Illuminati as a single, global, all-powerful group that runs governments, banks, wars, and culture from the shadows. That second idea is not a simple continuation of the first. It is a story that grew over time, changing shape with each era. If we want to assess likelihood, we have to treat the claim like any other claim about the world. What are the best facts we can confirm? What is the weakest link? What is the simplest explanation? And what motives and constraints would apply? The Bavarian Illuminati began with one man, Adam Weishaupt. He was a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt. He lived in a world where the Catholic Church and the Bavarian monarchy had strong control over education and public life. This was also the age of the Enlightenment in Europe, where many thinkers pushed for reason, science, and reform. Weishaupt wanted to build a society that could spread Enlightenment ideas and weaken the influence of the Church over politics and learning. He was not alone in disliking the power of religious authorities, but he was ambitious and methodical. The group he founded had structure. It used grades and ranks. It recruited educated men, including lawyers, officials, and some aristocrats. It used secrecy not because it had supernatural power, but because public political clubs could be risky. Governments and churches were suspicious of movements that talked about reform, free thought, and limits on authority. At the time, another popular group existed across Europe, the Freemasons. Masonic lodges were social networks that mixed ritual, fraternity, and in some places, discussion of political ideas. The Illuminati tried to infiltrate or recruit through Masonic circles. This matters because later conspiracy stories often treat Freemasons and the Illuminati as the same thing. Historically, they were not the same, but they did overlap in membership and in the way outsiders viewed them. So what did the Illuminati actually do? In the most grounded view, it was a reform-minded secret society with a program to influence society by shaping the beliefs of members and placing them into useful positions. It had rules, written instructions, and internal reports. It was not simply a dinner club. It was designed to be an engine for ideas. But there is also a limit to what it accomplished. Even in the best case for its importance, it was not a global network. It was mostly German-speaking, concentrated in Bavaria and nearby regions. It lasted less than a decade in any strong form. The government reaction came in the 1780s. Bavarian authorities issued edicts against secret societies. They raided homes and seized documents. Those documents later became key sources for historians. Ironically, the Illuminati secrecy did not protect it. The state was able to break it because it operated within a state that had police power and because members made mistakes. By the late 1780s, the Bavarian Illuminati was effectively dismantled. Weishaupt fled. The organization did not continue openly. If that is the real Illuminati, where does the long-lived global Illuminati story come from? A major turning point was the French Revolution. The French Revolution began in 1789, just as the real Illuminati was fading. The revolution shook Europe. It terrified monarchies. It inspired reformers. It brought violence, executions, and wars. It also created a hunger for explanations. When huge events happen, people often want a hidden hand. They want a plan that makes chaos feel designed. In that environment, writers began to blame secret societies for the revolution. Two names often come up here: Augustin Baruel, a French Jesuit priest, and John Robison, a Scottish scientist and writer. Baruel argued that philosophers, Freemasons, and the Illuminati had conspired to destroy the church and the monarchy. Robison argued that the Illuminati had infiltrated Freemasonry and pushed Europe toward revolution. These were not neutral historians. They were writing in fear and often with political goals. But their books spread widely. They helped fuse several anxieties into one narrative: that intellectual movements, secret lodges, and political upheaval were tied together by a hidden organization. Here we see an important pattern. The Illuminati becomes a symbol. It becomes less about the short-lived Bavarian group and more about a general fear of secret coordination by elites. Once a symbol is created, it can attach to new events. In the 1800s, Europe and America experienced rapid change: industrialization, revolutions, immigration, urban growth, and new forms of mass politics. Many groups formed to push causes. Some were secret, some were public. At the same time, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories also grew, especially in Europe. These theories often claimed that Jewish bankers or Jewish communities secretly controlled nations. This is important because many modern Illuminati claims borrow structures from older anti-Semitic myths. Even if the speaker does not intend that, the core idea is the same. A hidden group with money and networks controls everything. One of the most famous conspiracy texts is the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a forged document produced in Russia in the early 1900s. It claimed to reveal a Jewish plan for world domination. It was exposed as a fraud, but it spread anyway. Over time, people blended different conspiratorial traditions: the Illuminati, Freemasons, Jewish banking myths, communist fears, and later CIA and corporate fears could all be placed into the same mental box. Now, to assess likelihood of a real, continuous Illuminati today, we need to define what the claim is. Some people mean a literal organization with membership lists, ranks, rituals, and leadership, tracing back to 1776 in an unbroken chain. Others mean something looser: networks of wealthy and powerful people who coordinate, share interests, and influence outcomes. These are very different claims. The second claim is almost certainly true in a general sense. Powerful people do meet. They do share interests. They do fund politics. they do lobby, they do have private clubs, they do make deals. None of this requires a single secret society that has lasted for centuries. The first claim is much harder. To keep a single hidden organization alive across multiple centuries, you need continuity. You need recruitment. You need stable leadership transfer. You need secret communications that survive changing technology. You need members to keep quiet even when they have disputes. You need to avoid leaks for hundreds of years. Modern institutions with budgets and legal status still struggle to avoid leaks for a decade. Governments leak, corporations leak, intelligence agencies leak, people write memoirs, people get arrested, people defect, people gossip. So if a centuries-long Illuminati existed and had real power, we should expect evidence to appear, not just rumors. Evidence could include internal documents, authentic membership records, financial records, communications, verified whistleblowers with corroboration, or arrests tied to real crimes that reveal a structure. Instead, what we often see are symbols, patterns, and interpretation. For example, people point to the all-seeing eye, the pyramid, owls, hand signs, and certain numbers. They point to these, appearing on money, buildings, and in music videos. But symbols are slippery evidence. They can be adopted for many reasons: design, tradition, artistic reference, or simple trend. The all-seeing eye has a long history in art and religion. The pyramid is a classic symbol of stability and hierarchy. An eye can represent knowledge or vigilance. Even when symbols were used by groups like Freemasons, that does not prove a global control group. It proves that symbols travel. A different kind of claim focuses on events: wars, assassinations, market crashes, cultural changes. The argument is that the events are too coordinated to be random, so they must be planned. But complex systems can produce outcomes that look coordinated without a single planner. When many actors chase profit, power, or ideology, they can move in similar directions. They can also imitate each other. This is a key concept. You can get a coordinated-looking world from incentives, not from one command center. Still, we should not treat every conspiracy claim as foolish. It is reasonable to ask questions about secrecy and power. History shows real conspiracies do happen. Political coups are conspiracies. Intelligence operations are conspiracies. Corporate price fixing is conspiracy. Organized crime is conspiracy. The difference is that real conspiracies leave trails. They have limited scope, they have time limits, and they eventually show evidence. So we will do something simple but careful. We will examine the main categories of Illuminati claims. 1. The historical Bavarian Illuminati and what it did. 2. The idea that the Illuminati survived and shaped the modern world. 3. The idea that modern elites form a hidden ruling class. 4. The use of Illuminati as a metaphor in entertainment and culture. And in each category, we will ask what is well supported, what is weak, and what is possible. Let us return to the starting point, 1776 in Bavaria. The Illuminati called itself the Order of the Illuminati. It also used the name perfectibilists at times, meaning people who believe in the perfectibility of humans. Weishaupt designed it with a specific plan. A person would be recruited gradually. They would be tested. They would be taught certain ideas. The group would gather information about members and their networks. This sounds ominous to modern ears, but we should remember that many organizations collect information and manage influence. The difference is that this was secret and tied to political reform. The group had ideological goals. It criticized superstition and clerical control. It favored reason, education, and in some cases, republican ideas. But it was not a simple democracy movement. It still operated through elite networks. Some members were high status. This led later writers to imagine the group as a top-down elite conspiracy. But in reality, the group also had internal conflict, power struggles, and personality clashes. This is common in human organizations. One of the most striking facts is that we know a lot about the group because of the documents seized in raids. These included letters and internal papers. They show the mundane details: recruitment problems, arguments, and planning. This should shape our assessment. A group that was truly masterful at secrecy would likely not leave such a clear archive behind. It was secret, but it was not all-powerful. Now, why did people later imagine it as all-powerful? Because it was a useful villain. After the French Revolution, Europe wanted a cause. Conservative writers needed a hidden engine to blame for the destruction of the old order. The Illuminati name was perfect. It was already linked to secret lodges and reform ideas. It could be blamed for anything. In the United States, similar fears arose at times. In the early 1800s, there was suspicion of Freemasons. This led to an anti-Masonic political movement. People feared that Masons had secret loyalty to each other that could override public duty. A real event helped fuel this: the disappearance of William Morgan in 1826, after he threatened to publish Masonic secrets. This led to claims that Masons were dangerous and controlled society. Again, the pattern repeats. A secret group becomes a target, and the fear grows bigger than the evidence. The Illuminati, even if not present, could be pulled into this climate as part of the same secret world idea. Now, fast forward to the 1900s. The world becomes more interconnected. Mass media grows. Wars become global. Intelligence agencies expand. Corporations become multinational. These changes create new reasons to believe in hidden coordination. Some of those reasons are legitimate. Governments do run secret operations. Intelligence agencies do manipulate information. Corporations do coordinate through trade groups and lobbying. The key question is whether this requires a single secret society. Let us consider how real power tends to work. Power often works through institutions, governments, militaries, banks, parties, bureaucracies, courts. It also works through networks, personal relationships, shared schools, shared class, shared interests. It can be hidden in the sense that decisions are made in private rooms, but it is not always hidden in the sense of a secret ritual order. When people claim there is a single group controlling everything, we can test that claim against a simple observation. The world is full of conflict among elites. Banks compete, governments fight, corporations sue each other, political parties split, billionaires feud. A single control group would have to manage all those conflicts without leaving evidence. It could exist in theory, but the burden of proof is high. This is where the likelihood assessment comes in. The most likely scenario is that the Illuminati is a layered idea. At the bottom layer is the real historical Illuminati. Above that is a tradition of conspiracy literature that used the name to explain revolutions and social change. Above that is a modern world where secret deals and elite networks are real but messy. And on top is pop culture, where Illuminati is a meme, a joke, a marketing hook, and sometimes a serious belief. As we continue, we will stay grounded. We will look at what can be proven, what is plausible, and what is not. We will also talk about why people believe the modern Illuminati story. It is not only ignorance. It often comes from real experiences. Feeling powerless, seeing inequality, watching institutions fail, and noticing that connected people get away with things. When you see that the system is unfair, a secret cabal can feel like the simplest explanation. But unfairness does not automatically require a single hidden mastermind. It can arise from many causes: incentives, corruption, history, and the fact that power tends to concentrate. Now we will take a closer look at the Bavarian Illuminati itself. Weishaupt was born in 1748. He was educated by Jesuits. He later became a critic of their influence. Some accounts say his upbringing made him both knowledgeable about religious structures and hostile to them. His order began with a small circle. It grew through recruitment. Members used code names. Places had code names. The group created a map of who knew whom. This is a common feature of secret groups. It reduces risk. If one member is caught, they do not know the whole network. The Illuminati also collected personal information about members. This included their strengths, weaknesses, ambitions, and friendships. Again, this sounds dark, but it is also a way to manage trust and ensure loyalty. From the outside, it looked like a hidden political machine. From the inside, it was also a self-improvement program, at least in how it presented itself. Members were encouraged to study, to improve morals, to control impulses, and to pursue knowledge. This was part of Enlightenment culture. Many groups at the time believed society could be improved by shaping the minds of leaders. So what is the best evidence for what they intended? The best evidence is their own documents, as well as government reports about raids. These documents show that the group wanted influence. It did not only want philosophical discussion, it wanted to shape politics indirectly by shaping the people who held offices. But it also shows limits. They did not have infinite resources. They worried about membership, they argued, and most importantly, they were vulnerable. A real, all-powerful Illuminati would not have been crushed by a regional government in a few years. Now, some believers respond to this by saying that the crackdown was fake. They argue the Illuminati went deeper underground. This is logically possible, but then we need evidence of continuity. Continuity would mean known members passed leadership to new members, maintaining a structure that can be traced. In the historical record, there is no strong evidence of an unbroken line. Instead, what exists is a long echo, people repeating the story, each time adding details that fit their era. For example, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, some writers tied the Illuminati to communism. Later, during the Cold War, some tied it to globalism, the United Nations, and banking. In the 1990s and 2000s, it got tied to music and celebrities. Each era attaches the Illuminati label to whatever feels threatening. This tells us something about the myth. It is adaptable. A truly specific claim would be narrower. It would say, this organization has these leaders, these rules, and these actions. It would be testable. The Illuminati myth is often not like that. It is broad, so it cannot be disproven. If there is no evidence, believers say the group is too secret. If there is evidence against it, believers say the evidence is planted. This makes the claim hard to evaluate because it becomes unfalsifiable. But we can still ask what is more likely. It is more likely that the name Illuminati became a mythic placeholder for real concerns about secrecy and power. Now, we will examine some of the strongest modern arguments people make. One argument is that the world is too organized at the top, that big policy decisions across countries align, that financial systems seem coordinated. A grounded response is that coordination can come from shared incentives and shared training. Many leaders go to the same schools. They read the same reports. They attend the same conferences. They share similar economic ideas. This can create a sense of a single mind, even when it is a crowd of similar minds. Another argument is the existence of private clubs and meetings. Groups like the Bilderberg meeting, the World Economic Forum in Davos, and other gatherings are often cited. It is true these gatherings exist. It is true they include powerful people. It is true they often have limited transparency. But does that make them an Illuminati? Not automatically. A conference can be influential without being a secret society. It can spread ideas. It can create networks. It can align priorities. It can also be messy and full of disagreement. The strongest critique of these groups is not that they are supernatural puppet masters, but that they concentrate influence among a narrow set of people. That is a political critique, not proof of a hidden order. Another modern argument is about intelligence agencies. We know intelligence agencies have run secret programs. Some were illegal, some were unethical. Examples include COINTELPRO in the United States, which targeted activists, the CIA's involvement in coups and propaganda, the surveillance programs revealed in the modern era. These are real conspiracies with documents, but again, they are not proof of a centuries-old Illuminati. They are evidence that states can act in secret. Some believers say the Illuminati uses intelligence agencies as tools. This is possible in the abstract, but without evidence, it remains speculation. A more likely view is that intelligence agencies and elites can overlap. People move between government and industry. They share interests. They protect systems that benefit them. That is a network, not necessarily an order. Now, to assess likelihood, we can set up a scale. On one end, the claim is that the Bavarian Illuminati ended, and the modern Illuminati is mostly myth and metaphor. On the other end, the claim is that a single organization persisted and now controls the world. Between those extremes are many possibilities. For example, the name Illuminati could have been reused by later groups with no direct continuity, or certain elites could have adopted some symbols and rituals for bonding without a central world plan, or the idea could be used deliberately as a tool of intimidation or marketing. We will keep these options in mind. Another important point is that humans love patterns. If you look for triangles, you will find triangles. If you look for the number 13, you will find it. A pyramid on a dollar bill becomes a sign. But it can also be explained historically. The Great Seal of the United States includes an unfinished pyramid with an eye. It was designed in the late 1700s. The imagery drew from European symbolism, including ideas of providence, strength, and the unfinished work of building a nation. Some Masonic influence in early America is possible, but that still does not imply global control. Symbols can be shared without shared command. Now we will move deeper into the modern era and the question of celebrity Illuminati. Many people claim that musicians, actors, and influencers signal membership through hand signs and references. But in many cases, these signs are part of performance culture. Artists use provocative imagery. They borrow occult symbols for shock value. They play with mystery. This can create a feedback loop. Fans interpret the symbols as proof. The artist notices the attention and uses it again. Soon, a meme becomes a belief. This does not mean there is no manipulation in entertainment. There is. The industry has powerful gatekeepers: labels, studios, managers, sponsors, algorithms. But that is also not a single Illuminati order. It is an industry with incentives. Now, we will look at the strongest form of the claim, that the Illuminati is real as a controlling group. To make that claim credible, we would need to see outcomes that cannot be explained by open politics, lobbying, corruption, and institutional power. We would need to see a hidden mechanism that explains major events better than other models. In practice, most Illuminati narratives do not do this. They use broad claims. They treat coincidence as proof. They treat lack of evidence as evidence. So the likelihood that a single, continuous, all-powerful Illuminati exists is low, but the likelihood that powerful networks exist, that secrecy is used, and that myths grow around real secrecy is high. This is where our assessment becomes balanced. The myth is not a total fantasy. It reflects real features of human society: hierarchy, secrecy, ambition, and the desire to control. But the myth also exaggerates. It turns messy systems into a single villain. Now we will continue by tracing the myth in more detail through key historical moments. We will start with the French Revolution again, because it is the first time the Illuminati name becomes a grand explanation. Writers like Baruel argued that Enlightenment thinkers did not just influence society, they plotted. The secret societies did not just meet, they designed a revolution. This framing was powerful because it turned a complex social event into a story with a cause. But historians of the French Revolution point to many factors: economic crisis, political conflict, class tension, bad harvests, debt, and the structure of the French state. A secret society is not needed to explain it. Still, secret groups did exist, and political clubs did form. The revolution had organizers, it had leaders, but the idea of a single hidden hand is not supported by the best evidence. The claim survives because it is emotionally satisfying. Now, after the revolution, Europe entered an age of reaction. Monarchies tried to restore order. Police monitored radicals. Secret groups formed among both reformers and conservatives. In this environment, conspiracy narratives thrive. They can be used to justify crackdowns. They can also be used to rally people. When you say there is a hidden enemy, you can unite your side. This pattern continues into the modern era. In the 1900s, totalitarian regimes used conspiracy stories as tools. Nazis used anti-Semitic conspiracies to justify persecution. The Soviet state used conspiracy accusations to justify purges. Conspiracy stories can be dangerous because they turn complex social problems into an enemy list. So when we discuss the Illuminati myth, we should keep ethics in mind. We can criticize real secrecy and real corruption without slipping into scapegoating. Now let us talk about why the Illuminati story is so sticky. One reason is that secrecy is real. Many important decisions are made in private. The public sees the outcome, but not the process. This gap invites speculation. Another reason is that modern life feels hard to control. Global markets, technology, and bureaucracy can feel like forces beyond human reach. When people feel powerless, they want an explanation. A hidden cabal is an explanation. It can also be a comfort. If someone is in control, then the world is not random. Even if the controller is evil, at least there is an order. But randomness and complexity are often closer to the truth. Now we will shift into a careful look at evidence. What would count as good evidence? First, documents with verified provenance. That means we can trace where they came from and how they were stored. Second, multiple independent sources that confirm each other. Third, details that can be tested against known facts. For the historical Illuminati, we have these things. For the modern, global Illuminati, we generally do not. We have stories, symbol interpretations, and claims without verifiable backing. Now, in the next part, we will explore the claim that the Illuminati evolved into other organizations. Some claim it became part of Freemasonry. Some claim it became part of banking networks. Some claim it became part of modern global institutions. We will treat these as hypotheses. A hypothesis needs a chain. We need to see who joined, where they went, what they built, and how it connects. Without that chain, the hypothesis is weak. We will also discuss the difference between secrecy and privacy. A private meeting is not necessarily a conspiracy. Many meetings are private for practical reasons. A conspiracy is a secret plan to do something illegal or harmful. If we call everything a conspiracy, the word loses meaning. So we will be specific. Now we will pause for a moment and step back. The core question is not only, is there an Illuminati? It is, how does power really move through the world? If you learn how power moves, you become less vulnerable to simple myths. Power moves through money, institutions, laws, media, and social trust. It also moves through fear and hope. A group with power tries to keep it. A group without power tries to gain it. This can create real hidden alliances. But those alliances can change. They can break. They can fail. This is a different picture than a single timeless order. In the next section, we will take a careful walk through several modern cases, often cited as Illuminati evidence. We will test them. We will look at symbols on currency and architecture, at claims about secret rituals at elite gatherings, at claims about entertainment signaling, and at claims about global institutions. And each time we will ask, what is the strongest documented fact? What is the interpretation? And what is the simplest explanation? We begin with the symbol that is most famous, the eye and the pyramid. The Great Seal of the United States includes an unfinished pyramid and the Eye of Providence. It was adopted officially in the late 1700s, but it was not placed on the $1 bill until 1935. This timing matters. Some people say the 1930s change was a sign of Illuminati influence. The decision involved government officials and design committees. One figure often mentioned is Henry A. Wallace, Franklin Roosevelt's Secretary of Agriculture, who later became Vice President. Wallace was interested in symbolism and spirituality. He supported using the Great Seal elements on currency. Does that prove Illuminati control? No. It shows that leaders can be attracted to symbols. The Eye of Providence was already a known symbol in Christian art, meaning God's watchful presence. The pyramid can represent strength and durability. The unfinished top can represent an ongoing project. It is not necessary to invoke a hidden order. Now, what about the idea that Masons created the symbol? Some early American founders were Masons. Masonic symbolism overlaps with the eye and the pyramid in some contexts, but overlap is not proof of a plan. Many symbols are shared across traditions. The Great Seal was the product of multiple designers and committees. It reflects the symbolic language of the era. So as evidence of a global Illuminati, it is weak. As evidence that elites like symbols and use them, it is strong. Now consider the owl. The owl is often linked to secret knowledge. It is also a common symbol of wisdom. A modern claim focuses on the Bohemian Grove, a private campground in California, where powerful men have gathered for decades. The Bohemian Club hosts events there. There is an owl statue. There are rituals and plays. This is real. So how should we interpret it? First, the existence of a private club for elites is not surprising. Wealthy people form private spaces. They build traditions. Second, the rituals can be theatrical rather than religious. Third, the club is male and elite, which raises legitimate questions about influence. But to call it Illuminati, we would need evidence that decisions are made there that control the world. Some journalists and investigators have tried to learn more. Accounts suggest it is mostly networking and leisure, with some political talk, that is influential, but not omnipotent. So the Bohemian Grove is a good example of something real that can feed a myth. There is secrecy. There are rituals. There are powerful people. That looks like a conspiracy movie, but the simplest explanation is that it is an elite club. Now consider the World Economic Forum. It is not secret. It is public. It publishes agendas. It hosts panels. But many people see it as a symbol of global elite planning. Again, there is some truth in that elites meet and discuss global problems. But the forum is not a hidden order. It is open enough that you can watch many sessions. Its power is also limited. It cannot directly pass laws. So the claim that it is the Illuminati is more myth than fact. Now, we will move into the realm of finance. Some Illuminati claims focus on central banks, especially the US Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is often misunderstood. It is a central banking system with both public and private elements. It has major influence over the economy. People ask, who benefits? This is a real question. But even here, we see open politics and conflict. Different groups want different interest rates. Different parties argue. Markets react. The system has power, but it is not a single secret group. Now, we will address a common claim, that a small set of families controls the world. Sometimes the names include Rothschild, Rockefeller, Morgan, and others. This is an old style of conspiracy thinking. It contains a kernel of truth. Wealth can concentrate in families, and networks of finance can be influential. But it often becomes exaggerated into a story of total control. To assess likelihood, we can ask, do these families have unified command? Do they always win? Do they never lose? Do they never conflict? In reality, wealth shifts. Empires rise and fall. Even major dynasties face competition. The idea of a single family council controlling all events is unlikely. Now, to keep our analysis fair, we should also ask, why do institutions sometimes look coordinated? One reason is shared ideology. For example, in the late 1900s, many governments adopted similar economic policies like deregulation and privatization. This can look like a plan, but it can also be explained by a shared belief system spreading through academia, think tanks, and policy networks. Ideas can spread like viruses. No secret order is required. Now, we will move to the question of how the Illuminati myth is used. It is used by entertainers. It is used by political movements. It is used by online communities. Sometimes it is used as satire. sometimes a sincere belief, sometimes as a tool to attack enemies. For example, if you call your opponent part of the Illuminati, you do not have to argue policy. You can say they are evil and hidden. This can be attractive, but it is also a shortcut that can lead away from reality. Our goal here is not to mock, it is to understand. Now, we will continue this story further into the modern age. We will talk about how conspiracy thinking changes in the internet era. We will talk about how images and short clips can create strong belief. We will talk about how algorithms reward shocking claims. And we will talk about how real corruption and real secrecy can create the conditions where wild stories flourish. We will also return to the historical record, because the best way to understand a myth is to see its origin. The Bavarian Illuminati was born in a time of reform and fear. It was crushed by a state that feared it. Its name survived as a warning, and over time, the warning became a monster. Now we will continue by examining what historians say about the original order and what the best sources show. Many historians view the Bavarian Illuminati as a small but notable movement within the broader world of Enlightenment secret societies. They note that it had a disciplined structure, but also that its size and lifespan were limited. They emphasize the role of the Bavarian crackdown and the political climate. They also caution against exaggerating its influence. Some members did have positions in government and society, but that is not enough to prove large-scale control. The question is always, what did they actually cause? When we look for causation, we see that big events usually have many causes. The Illuminati could influence some individuals. It could spread some ideas, but it likely did not steer the entire course of European history. Now, if we accept this, the modern myth becomes easier to explain. The myth is a story that people keep rewriting because it fits their need for a hidden explanation. In the next part, we will walk through specific claims one by one and assign them a likelihood rating in plain language. Very unlikely, unlikely, possible, but unproven or plausible. We will also point out what evidence would be needed to move a claim up the scale, because a fair analysis is not only saying no, it is saying what would count as yes. For example, if someone produced a verified internal manual for a modern Illuminati group with membership lists that match real people and financial records and communications that can be authenticated, that would change things. But most claims do not offer this. They offer interpretation. Now we will transition into the long midsection of our documentary. We will explore the myth in 3 circles. The first circle is history and documents. The second circle is modern elite networks. The third circle is modern internet culture. And after that, we will return to our central question and give a clear assessment. We start with the first circle, history and documents. In the raids against the Illuminati in the 1780s, authorities seized many papers. These papers were published in some form. They showed the group's methods. One key detail is that the group was not a free-for-all. It was organized. It used a system of grades, and each grade had specific teachings. A new recruit might be told the group is about moral improvement. Later, they might be introduced to political goals. This gradual approach is typical of secret societies. It keeps recruits from running away early. It also builds loyalty, but it also creates vulnerability. It depends on people keeping secrets, and people often fail. Some members became disillusioned, some were careless, Some betrayed others. The state crackdown exploited this. This is another reason why the idea of a perfect secret order is unlikely. Humans are not perfect. Now, a believer might say, the real Illuminati learned from this and became better. That is possible, but then we should see evidence of that improved secrecy over time. Instead, what we see is evidence of the myth growing, not evidence of the organization. Now we move to the second circle, elite networks. Elite networks are real. A small number of people have disproportionate influence. They sit on boards. They fund campaigns. They own media. They hire lobbyists. They shape education. This can feel like a hidden hand, but it can be explained by the logic of wealth and institutions. If you have money, you can buy access. If you have access, you can influence policy. If you influence policy, you can protect wealth. This is a feedback loop. It does not require an Illuminati order. It requires a system where money and influence reinforce each other. Now, the third circle, internet culture. The internet took conspiracy thinking and changed it. In the past, conspiracy books spread slowly. Now, a short video can reach millions. A symbol can be clipped from a music video and turned into proof. A rumor can be repeated until it feels true. Algorithms reward content that triggers emotion. Fear and anger are strong triggers. So the internet can amplify the Illuminati myth. It can also connect it to other myths. This creates a giant web. Once you are in that web, every new event becomes evidence. This is not because the evidence is strong. It is because the framework can absorb anything. Now, we will keep moving forward. We will do a careful walk through several famous claims and see how they hold up. We will take them in order: currency symbolism, elite clubs, entertainment signaling, and global governance. And as we do, we will keep returning to our main standard: what can be documented. Now, consider currency again. The US dollar bill is often treated as a secret message, but currency design goes through committees. It has historical reasons. If you want to prove a hidden message, you need more than symbolism. You need a decision record that shows intent. Some records exist for the Great Seal. They show debates about imagery. They do not show a secret order directing policy. So the likelihood that the dollar bill is an Illuminati membership card is very low. Now, consider elite clubs. Elite clubs do exist. The Bohemian Grove is one. Skull and Bones at Yale is another example often mentioned. Skull and Bones is a secret society at a university. Some members became powerful later. This can look like proof. But a college secret society is not the same as a global order. It is a networking club. It can create loyalty. It can open doors. This is real influence, but it is not magical control. So the likelihood that Skull and Bones is the Illuminati is low. The likelihood that elite social networks help careers is high. Now, entertainment signaling. Many people point to the eye symbol in music videos. They point to lyrics about selling a soul. They point to awards show imagery. These can be explained by performance culture and marketing. Artists borrow from occult imagery because it is memorable. They also like mystery. Some may also enjoy teasing conspiracy fans, so the likelihood that these are proofs of membership is low. But the likelihood that the entertainment industry is controlled by business interests is high. Again, we separate real power from myth. Now, global governance. People fear that global institutions like the UN or the EU are steps toward world government. These institutions do exist, they do coordinate, but they also have limits, conflicts, and public documentation. World government is not a hidden conspiracy. It is a political project that would require public treaties, enforcement, and legitimacy. So the likelihood that a hidden Illuminati has already achieved world government is very low. Now, to finish this section, we will also talk about one of the most common logical errors in Illuminati thinking. It is the error of assuming that because something benefits a group, that group must have caused it. This is called reasoning from outcome to intent. For example, if a war benefits certain companies, that does not prove those companies planned the war. It suggests they had incentives and they may have lobbied, but causation needs evidence. This does not mean elites are innocent. It means we need to be careful. Now, we will continue into a more detailed history of how the Illuminati myth merges with other conspiracies in the 1900s. We will look at the rise of modern propaganda. We will look at the fear of communism. We will look at the fear of global banking. And we will show how the Illuminati label becomes a flexible tag. In this way, the myth is less like a single story and more like a template. You can plug in any villain. You can plug in any event. The template stays the same. A hidden group controls everything. Now, we will slow down and move step by step. During World War I and World War II, conspiracy stories grew. People experienced censorship, propaganda, and secret deals. They learned that governments can lie. This created fertile ground. After World War II, the Cold War created a permanent security state in many countries. Intelligence agencies grew. Classified programs grew. Secrecy became normal. This again created fertile ground. Real secrecy makes people more willing to believe in larger secrecy. But real secrecy is not the same as a single secret society. Now, we will continue further, but before we do, we will keep our main promise. We will end with a clear assessment. We will not leave you with fog. We will not pretend everything is unknown. We will say what is likely and what is not, and we will explain why. We continue now. We can also test the myth by asking a basic question. If a single hidden group controlled everything, what would the world look like? It would likely look more stable for the rulers. It would look more consistent. It would look less like constant improvisation and crisis management. Instead, the modern world looks like a set of competing power centers. Governments fight each other. Businesses compete. Parties split. Alliances shift. Plans fail. Unexpected events change everything. This does not mean there is no coordination. There is coordination all the time. But it is usually local, temporary, and tied to specific goals. A key example is lobbying. Lobbying is a legal form of influence. Companies and groups hire people to shape laws and regulations. They use research, access, and pressure. This can look like a secret plan from the outside, because ordinary people do not see the meetings. But the mechanisms are often public enough to trace. Campaign donations, industry groups, revolving door careers. If you want to explain why many policies benefit large companies, you do not need an Illuminati. You can describe lobbying, regulatory capture, and the incentives of politicians. Another example is the way news and media can align. Some people say, when many outlets push the same story, it is proof of centralized control. Sometimes there is coordination, like shared wire services, shared press briefings, or shared ownership. But often it is also a herd effect. Editors copy each other. Journalists follow the same trends. Social media amplifies certain narratives. Again, incentives can create alignment. Now we should address a deeper question. Why do some people insist the Illuminati must be real? One reason is that they see real deceit in history. They point to events where governments lied. They point to secret experiments. They point to cover-ups. These things happened. So they reason, if some secrets were real, then the biggest secret is also real. But that jump does not follow. Real secrecy does not prove unlimited secrecy. In fact, the existence of leaks and scandals shows the limits of secrecy. Another reason is that the Illuminati myth offers a single explanation for many frustrations. If someone feels their life is controlled by forces they cannot influence, it can feel empowering to name the enemy. It can also be comforting to believe that chaos is planned, but planned chaos is still a plan, and humans prefer a plan to meaninglessness. Now, we will take a careful look at the strongest type of claim people make, which is called verifiable prediction. A strong theory should predict something specific before it happens. For example, if someone says, the Illuminati will do X on Y date, and then it happens in a way that cannot be explained by other causes, that would be significant. But most Illuminati claims do not work like this. They are retroactive. They explain events after the fact. After a crisis, they say it was planned. After a celebrity does a gesture, they say it was a sign. After a policy passes, they say it was part of the agenda. This is weak evidence. Now, there is another concept that matters: the difference between a conspiracy and a system. A conspiracy is a secret plan by a group. A system is a set of rules and incentives that produces outcomes without a single planner. Systems can be brutal. They can harm people. They can concentrate wealth. They can punish dissent. But they can do that without a secret council. When people call a system a conspiracy, they sometimes miss the real levers. They might chase symbols instead of laws. They might chase hidden cabals instead of budgets. This can lead to frustration. Now let us return to the question of the original Bavarian Illuminati. Was it evil? It depends on your view. Some of its goals were reformist: education, reason, limits on clerical power. Some of its methods were manipulative: secrecy, infiltration, gathering personal information. It was not a pure democratic movement. It was an elite strategy. It shows that secret groups can form for political reasons. So the myth begins with a real seed. But the seed does not become a global tree without more evidence. Now, some people claim they have evidence. They cite leaked documents. They cite whistleblowers. They cite books that claim insider knowledge. Here we must apply the same standards. Is the source identifiable? Can the document be authenticated? Do independent sources confirm it? Does it contain details that can be checked? In many cases, the evidence fails. The documents have unclear origin. The claims rely on anonymous sources. The details are vague. When you remove the excitement, the proof is thin. Now, there is a real thing that can confuse this. Governments and groups sometimes spread conspiracy stories on purpose. They do it to distract, to discredit opponents, or to create confusion. This is called disinformation. Disinformation can make true events look like myths, and myths look like true events. It can poison the water. So it is possible that some Illuminati stories are promoted by real actors. But even if that is true, it does not prove the core myth. It proves that propaganda exists. Now, we will move toward our assessment. We will make it in 3 parts. Part 1. What is clearly real? Part 2. What is plausible but not proven. Part 3. What is very unlikely. First, what is clearly real. The Bavarian Illuminati existed as a short-lived secret society in the late 1700s. It had goals tied to Enlightenment reform. It recruited through networks that included some Freemasons. It used secrecy and influence. It was suppressed by the Bavarian government. These points are supported by historical documents. Also clearly real is that secretive elite networks exist. Powerful people form clubs, attend private meetings, and share information. They influence politics through money, access, and institutions. This is not a hidden supernatural order. It is how hierarchy works. Second, what is plausible but not proven. It is plausible that small groups have sometimes used the Illuminati name later, either as a real organization or as a performance. It is plausible that some elites enjoy secret rituals and symbols. It is plausible that some entertainment uses Illuminati imagery on purpose to spark conversation. It is also plausible that intelligence operations and propaganda sometimes feed conspiracy narratives, but none of this proves a single continuous world-ruling Illuminati. Third, what is very unlikely. It is very unlikely that a single organization founded in 1776 survived in an unbroken chain and now controls global events. The logistics are too hard. The evidence is too weak. The world is too chaotic. Real conspiracies usually have a limited scope and leave evidence. The Illuminati myth claims unlimited scope and leaves mostly interpretation. So our likelihood assessment is this. If by Illuminati you mean the historical group, it was real. If by Illuminati you mean a modern metaphor for elite power and secrecy, the underlying power dynamics are real. If by Illuminati you mean a single hidden master organization controlling the world, the claim is very unlikely based on available evidence. Now, we should end with a careful warning. Some people feel disappointed by this conclusion. They want a single villain. But reality is still serious. You do not need an Illuminati to have corruption. You do not need an Illuminati to have inequality. You do not need an Illuminati to have propaganda. Those problems can exist in open daylight. If anything, the myth can sometimes distract from real accountability. It can move attention away from specific laws, specific institutions, and specific decisions. So the best way to stay grounded is to focus on what can be traced. Follow money. Follow documents. Follow conflicts of interest. Look for verifiable sources. Avoid stories that explain everything with one hidden hand. History is complex. Power is real. Secrecy is real. But the world is usually governed by human limitation as much as human intention. We end where we began, with the word Illuminati. It began as the name of a small group of reformers in Bavaria. It became a symbol in the panic after revolution. It became a template for conspiracy stories. And today, it lives as a modern myth that reflects real fears. In the end, myth or reality is not a simple yes or no. The original order was real. The modern global order is more story than proof, and the truth about power is often less dramatic, but more important, because it is visible enough to challenge. Before we close, it helps to look at how the story of the Illuminati changes depending on who is telling it. When a conservative writer in the 1790s talked about the Illuminati, the fear was that religious and royal authority would collapse. When a nationalist writer in the 1800s talked about it, the fear might be foreign influence or hidden bankers. When a Cold War era writer talked about it, the fear might be communism or global institutions or a loss of sovereignty. When a modern internet creator talks about it, the fear might be corporate control, surveillance, and the feeling that ordinary people are being managed. The same label fits every fear. That is a sign that we are dealing with a flexible myth. A real organization can be investigated like a real object. It has edges. It has a location. It has a timeline. A myth grows by absorbing new material. It has no stable edges. This does not mean it is worthless. Myths can point to real social problems. They can be a rough way of saying, I do not trust the people in charge. But if we want accuracy, we have to move from myth language to plain language. Instead of saying, the Illuminati did this, we can ask, which institution did this? Which people signed it? Which law enabled it? And who benefited? Those are questions that can be answered. And this is also where the best parts of the old story can be used in a healthy way. The original Bavarian Illuminati, for all its problems, was focused on ideas, education, and reform. It believed that knowledge could change society. A modern person who wants to resist manipulation can take a lesson from that, without adopting the fantasy of a global cabal. Learn how media works. Learn how incentives work. Learn basic history. Learn how to read sources. Learn how to notice when an argument is built on vibes instead of proof. Then, when you see real secrecy and real corruption, you can respond with clarity, not panic. And when you see a dramatic claim, you can ask the simple question that protects you. What would convince me this is true? What would convince me it is false? If the answer is nothing can convince me either way, then I am not holding a belief. The belief is holding me. And we can give our final line in the simplest terms. The Illuminati was a real historical group. The Illuminati, as a modern world-controlling order, is not supported by strong evidence. The deeper reality is that power can be concentrated, secretive, and unfair, even without one single hidden mastermind. That reality is less cinematic, but it is the one that matters. There is one more practical way to think about the likelihood question. Imagine you are trying to run a secret organization that controls many countries. You need to keep thousands of people aligned, because complex plans require many hands. You also need to keep those people loyal, even when they are under stress, even when they are tempted by money, even when they are caught, and even when they want revenge. You would need discipline across generations. You would need a way to prevent internal splits. You would need to handle mistakes, and you would need to survive changes in communication, from handwritten letters to telegraphs, to phones, to the internet, to modern surveillance. Each new technology makes secrecy harder, not easier. So if someone claims that the Illuminati has been quietly running the world for centuries, the practical difficulties are part of the evidence. Not proof, but weight. In contrast, if we describe the world as shaped by many overlapping networks, each working for its own interests, the picture fits what we can observe. It fits conflict, it fits failure, it fits leaks, it fits the way power shifts. So the most reasonable conclusion is not that everything is random, and not that everything is planned, but that large outcomes come from many smaller plans interacting. This is the ordinary human shape of history. If you carry only one idea from this episode, let it be this. When you hear a claim that explains everything, slow down. Ask for the chain of evidence. Ask for names, dates, documents, and independent confirmation. If the claim can survive those questions, it becomes worth deeper attention. If the claim collapses into symbols and hints, treat it as a story, not a fact. And when you want to understand the real world, focus on what is measurable. Follow the institutions. Follow the incentives. Follow the money. That is where real power leaves fingerprints. And if you ever feel that the world is too complex to understand, remember that complexity does not require magic. It requires time. It requires attention. It requires patience with small details. When you give those things to a problem, the shape of it becomes clearer, and the need for a single hidden puppet master fades. So we end quietly now. This was a quiet archive story, where the story ends, sleep begins,